Humans spend an enormous amount of energy trying to freeze time. We build massive monuments, hoard wealth, and lock down our relationships, hoping to create a permanent shelter against a universe that constantly moves. But eventually, the structures we build crumble. In the late 4th century BCE, a wealthy Phoenician merchant named Zeno of Citium learned this the hard way. He had built a life trading valuable purple dye across the Mediterranean, but during a voyage, a violent storm destroyed his ship, sending his entire fortune and livelihood to the bottom of the sea. Zeno washed up in Athens, completely destitute. He wandered into a bookstore in the city center, his cargo gone and his previous identity as a successful merchant erased by the water. He was forced to confront a terrifying reality. Every material possession we gather and every physical status we claim can be wiped out in an instant, entirely without our permission. A century earlier, a philosopher named Heraclitus of Ephesus had diagnosed this exact existential problem. Looking at the natural world, he observed that reality is defined entirely by constant transition. The universe is inherently designed to dismantle what we construct. Consider Heraclitus's river paradox. You cannot step into the same river twice. Because the water is constantly flowing, new waters continually rush in. By the time you put your foot down again, the river's physical composition is entirely different. The same logic applies to us. Our bodies are undergoing constant metabolic turnover. Our cells die and replicate, and our psychological states shift from moment to moment. We exist in the exact same state of rapid transition as the water. If the universe is made of shifting sand, anchoring our happiness or our psychological stability to anything physical is a mathematical guarantee of despair. But Heraclitus offered a radical counterargument. The constant destruction and transition we experience is not random, and it is not chaotic. This graphic demonstrates what he called the unity of opposites. Contrasting states like day and night or health and sickness are not enemies. They are codependent halves of a single functioning system. The existence of one strictly requires the other to operate. He described the entire universe as an ever-living fire. To maintain its balance, it must constantly consume fuel and transform matter, turning one element into another in a continuous cycle. This process is governed by what Heraclitus called the logos. The logos is the underlying rational formula, or strict law, that controls this fiery exchange. It is the mathematical logic steering the cosmos. The universe is not a chaotic sequence of tragic losses. It is a perfectly balanced, rational equation operating exactly as it is supposed to. Zeno adopted this physics to build his own philosophy, which became known as Stoicism. He concluded that the cosmos is a living, rational entity. It actively preserves the good and dissolves the bad to maintain equilibrium. For the Stoics, human reason is a literal spark of this cosmic fire. Because we share this rational fire, we can bridge the gap between the vast mechanics of the universe and our own minds. We helplessly perceive the world, like an open palm receiving an object outside our control. We have the free will to practice assent, choosing whether we agree with our perception. When assent aligns with the logos, we grasp the truth firmly, achieving comprehension. We are powerless to stop the universe's fiery flux, but we possess absolute, untouchable control over how our minds judge and accept that flux. The Stoics defined suffering, or evil, as a form of ignorance. It happens when our internal logic desperately fights against the inevitable external flow of the logos. We can see this friction in a famous samurai analogy about a rainstorm. When a sudden downpour hits, the instinctive reaction is to panic. You run to hide under the eaves of houses, desperately trying to stay dry. But you end up getting soaked anyway, and you spend the entire walk living in anxiety and frustration. The Stoic response is to acknowledge that the rain is inevitable. You drop the resistance, stop fighting the weather, and simply walk through it. You still get wet, but you do it with total psychological detachment from the physical discomfort. True, unshakable freedom is achieved through absolute submission to the fate of the universe. By recognizing the rational flow of the logos, we replace fear with caution and desire with will. We survive the shipwrecks of life not by fighting the ocean, but by learning to flow seamlessly with it.